Hi. So it turns out that my co-host. Oh my god! And I'm broadcasting to myself. That's annoying. Okay, now that that's settled, Jen's MIA, so it's only half of the Snow Mexicans today. And welcome. And to start us off, I thought I'd play us in instead of normally how I play us out. Fuck it up, because there's been a lot of stuff out there today that's really relevant, some funny, some just like I want to flip a table and hit them in the face with it. And first and foremost, we had the latest Dnc debate, blah, 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 which who the fuck cares, really? Like, oh my God. I'm getting sick of listening to this shit. And our latest little scandal within the DNC, which we have Warren claiming that Bernie said that women could not ever be president. A woman could not be president in 2020. I don't believe that. Bernie Sanders is a liar, a shyster, a leech on the public system, and a racist. But I don't believe that he's that much of a bigot. And I don't believe that he's the type of person who would say something like that. Like I wouldn't even say something like that unless it was in jest. Because let's be honest, women can't really be president. No, see, it's a joke. It's a joke. Obviously, anybody could be president, whether they have the votes or not. And in the U.S., that would, require winning the Electoral College, which anybody could really do. I think she might be mistaken because she's an even bigger liar and shyster than Bernie is. That maybe she heard that she couldn't be president because she shouldn't be, because she's a complete and utter fucking psychopath. Hello, fellow kids. And she's not a good person. Play some of the video because that a woman could not this came up in the debate.
Senator Warren,
and
what did you think when Senator Sanders?
She's just doing this as a political tactic to eliminate Bernie, who's not really a part of the DNC. Remember, for the last how many years that he's been suckling off the public coffers as a senator.
This question about whether or not a woman can be president has been raised, and it's time for us to.
He's been an independent, and to that fact,
I think the best way to talk about who can win is by looking at people's winning record. So, can a woman be?
People's winning record. People's winning record. What have you guys won? What have you really won? Really, you lied and used some sort of minority status to get ahead in life. You lied and used this minority status to create a powwow chow Native American inspired cookbook. You lied and said you were part Native American to get preferential treatment in schooling.
Beat Donald Trump. Look at the men on this stage. Collectively, they have lost 10 elections.
Elections for what? Presidential runs? Probably. But again, what aside from your status as a senator, what have you won, Warren? You haven't won shit. You might have made some moves in government, but you haven't won anything. Again, you lied and cheated your way through the system. So if anything, you're the biggest loser up there.
The only people on this stage who have won every single election that they've been in are the women.
Because you lied.
Amy
and Amy Klobuchar, she won one election to get the position she's in now. Whatever. She is a nut job. She's a total fucking nut job. And I can see that in the near future with what's going on politically and the political landscape, that all this shit that they're doing, that politicians are doing, that a lot of is more happening on the left, but both sides, all sides are equal of or just as equal in responsibility for lying and cheating their way through the system. But seeing that there might be some actual reprisal, because we've seen scandals, and it didn't, unless it was something on a Nixon-esque level, or we haven't really seen much. The Bill Clinton thing was kind of a sham. He got caught on a technicality of lying to Congress because, there's that whole story. But I hope at the end, I hope it comes and bites them in the ass more so than anything, because politicians need to be held accountable to the public that they're supposed to serve. Hey, James, how's it going, buddy? I don't turn up on Peter's Almonds chats. Yeah, I normally just watch and play and kind of do my own thing while lurking. I'll occasionally come in and say hello and do my thing. But for the most part, yeah. And so relating to that, Pelosi names Bull Schiff, Nadler as prosecutors for U.S. President Trump's impeachment trial. Well, wow. Who's surprised in that? That the two most vocal people are now going to be leading the impeachment trial. Oh wow, how delicious is that? So I mean, I don't want to go through the article because it's just more of the same bullshit. It's more the media backing the claims and backing the bullshit that they not too long ago were calling politicians out for. Maybe it's just because politicians were more, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know where I was going with that thought. I don't understand it. Are they bought out more? I know, definitely in Canada and to a lesser extent in the UK, with Canada, we gave $6 billion to the Liberal government gave $6 billion to media companies and television stations like the CBC. That to me is an outright bribe. It really is, because look at the tone in which they treat someone like Trudeau versus the tone that they'll treat somebody like, here, Andrew Scheer, which I don't like him. I don't like him as a politician. I don't like him as a personality for Canada. But I know it's kind of comparing apples to oranges, but hey, we're talking fruit here. Let's compare it to Trump and how the media on both sides of the border treat Trump. It's not fair. It's not equal. It's not equitable. It's not even. And if you call yourself a news outlet, then there has to be that level of equity, that level of similar treatment. So I mean, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, I really, really hope these people get their comeuppance, because it's a long time coming. And for Western society to continue on the way it has, and in succeeding in perpetuating fairness and the ability to give even the lowest in your society a little bit of a leg up and the ability to become a success in various avenues, but giving you that base level to just go out into the world and try something, to be able to try to succeed in something. So let's quickly hop over to the other side of the pond, and talking about how, American media will treat someone like Bojo. I love Bojo. Bojo's amazing. Bojo's an intelligent man. He's a well-spoken politician. He might not be as what's the word I'm looking for? Honest and everything as I would like in an ideal world politicians to be, but he at least is the type of person who, and this is the only comparison that I can make to Trump with him, other than his hair, his weird, crazy blonde hair, is the fact that he speaks his mind, and he's very open with speaking his mind. And I like that. I like that in a politician, whether or not they're always 100% truthful? Who is in this world? But at least when you speak your mind, you can see tone, you can see truth in that tone, in their eyes, how they speak, what they say. And yeah, they might use a little obfuscation. Again, they're a politician. It comes with the territory. However, I think Bojo's probably not the worst guy out there. Job interview. Nice. Yeah. So why I bring that up is because Boris Johnson says veganism is a quote unquote crime against cheese lovers. And I thought that was just delicious. He's stirring the pot. He's taking the piss with, vegans, the not your average, oh, well, I just happen to be vegans, but the vegans who within 3 seconds of meeting them will let you know at least 4 times that they are vegan. So according to Prime Minister Bojo, he says he wants to lose weight in 2020, but won't go vegan because it means giving up cheese. Maybe, okay, fine. I get that. But maybe it's your love of cheese. Let's put on a couple of those extra pounds there, Mr. Johnson. You can cut back, whatever. In an interview with the BBC, the British Prime Minister said that while he wanted to slim down this year, he would not be taking part in Veganuary. What?
Come on, man.
That's a thing? Veganuary? What the fuck is wrong with people? Arms killing. I'm going nuts, bro. Link to the veganism article. Yeah, sure. I'll put it in chat, dude. Hopefully that'll do you right. Let me know if it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, Veganuary. Okay, I shouldn't get held up on this. No problem, my dude. But he would not be taking part in vegan. I can't even say it with a straight face at this point. Veganuary. Go fuck off. The annual campaign encouraging people to stick to a plant-based diet for the first month of the year because it, quote unquote, requires so much concentration. Sure, yeah, you have to pay attention to what you eat. And, just unlike a vegetarian who just tries to stay away from, meat products, a vegan has to stay away from all animal products, or at least the majority of them. And Johnson said that while he takes his quote unquote hats off to vegan who can handle it, who managed to avoid all non-vegan products, he added that avoiding animal products is a crime against cheese lovers. And, he loves his cheese. So sure. You want to try to do a little bit better. Hey, Scotty. Hey, Peter. Thanks for coming along. You want to do a little bit better. You're getting older, and as men, we typically have to pay a little bit more attention as we get older for fear of a lot of different things. That isn't to say women have their own problems, but men especially have dietary problems and dietary concerns. Colorectal cancer is a big deal. Putting my serious hat on. What? AAA meeting started and my audio was going nuts in my earphones. Sorry about that. Where was I? Yes. Making some dietary changes. I had to instill this into my brother-in-law, who's actually an MD, who's, quite a bit, probably about 12 or 14 years older than me. So, he's quite a bit older than me. He's getting on in years. And I told him that, and I talked to my sister about this because we talk cooking all the time, that he should really start watching, especially his red meat intake. And, they've taken that to heart. And hopefully that's, I haven't really followed up because, that's kind of personal stuff. If they want to share, hey, dude, I'm down like 10 pounds. I dropped 5 pounds, great. But, I'm not gonna be intrusive and, ask about it. But, and portion control too, because in the West, because of our abundance, we typically, indulge a little bit more than we probably should. I don't want to get preachy. You live your life how you want to. I'm all for the liberty of the individual to do what you want. But if you're making these choices, then good on you because you only really have one body, and probably best interest to take care of it. If you don't want to, then, so be it. That kind of brings me to my next article already, which is something that's something I'm looking into personally because, as some of you might know, as most people know who know me, I'm a bit of a cripple. I've got some things going on, and one of the things I've been looking into because it might be pertinent, because a lot of my problems stem in my knee and hip. I read this interesting article from CNN, no doubt, but CNN Health, sure. Don't really frequent there, but I do frequent CNN to watch the shit show that is CNN. But the article talks about how most people wait too long for knee replacement surgery. That they say survey, but it's more like a study, but it's more like a survey. They didn't do, very empirical study. They just surveyed a bunch of people pre and post op when they have these kinds of things done. So the CNN article starts off with living with knee pain. A new study has found that 90% of Americans with osteoarthritis suffer too long before having a knee replacement that could improve their quality of life. Now, right there, if we break it down, again, it's not really a study. It's more of a survey that could later develop into a proper study. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry. That could eventually develop into a study, but it's specifically talking about the information. I got a notification. I don't know what from. I have Peter Allman is here for Sexy Time. Thanks for the sub, dude. You know what? I should have been doing this through OBS if Jen wasn't here, because the reason why we use StreamYards is it's just easier to communicate with people in real time. And since we look at the articles together, it's easier to do it that way. But yeah, back to the article. Sorry, I'm having again a little bit of a brain fart. So the article goes on: when people wait too long, they lose more and more function and cannot exercise or be active, thus leaving them open to weight gain, depression, and other health problems. Said the lead investigator, associate professor of surgery at Northwestern University's School of Medicine, Hassan Foran. Which that's something that I can attest to, because of the massive decrease in mobility. It has contributed greatly to personal weight gain, even though I do pertain a fairly well-balanced, healthy diet, or at least I try to. I cheat. I'm not like super aggressive about it. Depression, yeah, it has fed into it, and I'll level with you. It's not easy when you, and like anyone who can tell you, to go from perfectly abled and healthy of mind and body to having your body fail you. Just like the opposite, having a healthy body, but having your mind fail you. These are massive causes of great personal depression, and as well they lead into other health problems, because your health is a microcosm of the universe where everything is living in balance. All these different organs, all these different entities within the greater entity that is you, working together to thrive and to be the best organism you can. So I can attest to these things all really playing. And again, looking into whether or not I'm too young, because they do say you really should be waiting until you're a little bit older than I am now to get things like a hip replacement, knee replacement surgery. And as well, I haven't, thanks to the long waits at our healthcare system, I haven't been able to get a diagnosis or even a clear, concise report on whether or not these are actual physical problems, what the physical problems are. We've identified, my doctors have identified that there are problems, but we haven't identified what they exactly are. So I can't, aside from doing the precursory research. No, sorry, Scotty. There's no age cap on whether or not you need one. They just say that through, a younger person, in their 20s, 30s, early 40s, generally should kind of try to stave off of it, especially if it's a more recent thing in your life, because through physiotherapy and through other exercise, you might be able to bounce back. Replacement surgeries are really there as sort of a last resort. Previous way we used to treat things like this when they got to the point where you need a replacement was amputation. But thankfully we have the medical technology of today where we can at least go in, replace some of the bone or cartilage or something, and allow them to have a little bit better semblance of independence. Ooh, that's an interesting article over there. Oh, it's paid content. Fuck the paid content. Geodes, how you doing, my friend? So I'm going to bring you into stream and say hello because I didn't notice that you were there. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? I'm good.
Not too bad. As I mentioned to you in DMs, my co-host is kind of MIA today. And thanks for coming on. So I have somebody to, bounce some ideas off of. We're just talking about knee replacement surgery. That personally is something that I've been looking into. Oh, my Lord. Sorry, donation. Again, I have, I'm not doing it through OBS, so the thing wasn't showing up on stream. I'm very sorry for that. From Inked, have a drink on me. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I wish it was during one of my regular streams because it would have shown a fun little message through OBS. But I was hoping that maybe at some point Jen might wake out of her stupor and join us online. But thankfully, Geodes is here, so we will move on. Did you, sorry to pry, but did you already handle your phone call or?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect. So we got some time then. I just didn't want to have to upend you or have you upend me in or bail out at the drop of a hat. It's real life is more important than the internet, regardless of what Twitter will tell you. And yeah, thanks so much.
Oh, no worries. I will say, without going into details, this particular phone call, not important enough to to be to really interfere too much with this because it's a lot of BS happening at work, but it's okay.
That's good. So, is this the first time we've been on stream together? Because I know I watch Minions, almost religiously. I've seen you on there. Have we? I can't tell if we've been on something before.
I think we've hung out before.
That's possible.
I think it was with on one of Universe Man's gaming streams.
Right. Yeah, we played a little Jackbox and we had some fun on his stream, D Live. People should check it out. He's kind of funny and he's entertaining. He usually wears these giant horns, which are just hilarious.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's a pretty cool guy. So yeah, but yeah, no, I think that was probably where we've interacted aside from chats in Discord. So
yeah. So you know what? In honor of Jen not being here, which I can only assume is because she's a little hungover from a little bit too much smoke, maybe. So in Arizona, there was a purple haze, as you can see in the picture here, in the sky. It was caused by a marijuana farm, but it's not what you think. Excuse me, Mr. Williams, Mr. David Williams of CNN. How do you know what I think?
I mean, CNN likes to think they know what everyone thinks. So, I mean, maybe
exactly. They're the kings of getting you to think what they want you to think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, if they can't manipulate how you think, then who possibly can?
Right?
And who has
definitely not MSNBC. But I'm curious because I just saw this. It just popped up right before the show in my news feed. So I wanted to check it out in sort of real time and see what the hell is going on. So Kara Smith, who's Kara Smith? Says the grow lights from probably the photographer here, says the grow lights from Copperstone Farms, a medical marijuana farm, reflected off the fog in Snowflake, Arizona, and turned the early morning sky purple. That is amazing. That is hilarious.
Yeah, it's definitely it reminds me. A couple of years ago, we had a transformer blowout in New York, and they lit the sky up like this electric blue color.
Oh, yeah,
that
I saw the pictures of that. That was freaky, but like gorgeous at the same time. So yeah, basically my assumptions were, and the caption under the photo pretty much sums it up, that it was just a reflection off of the snow and fog. Love nature when it does crazy shit like this, because you don't see blue, purple. Those aren't very common colors in the natural world. They are in the light spectrum and everything, but not so much in the flora and fauna world. So it's kind of interesting when you see large displays of these colors. It's kind of why lightning storms tend to evoke people with awe. Those bright flashes of blue and white, the aurora borealis, which has multiple colors of just bright lights. It's really man, I really want to see something like this in the sky now that isn't like aliens coming to probe Peter Almond.
Yeah, well, I mean, they'll only be coming after the cows. So, I mean...
You call Peter Almond a cow? I'm just saying he's the best of us. So, I mean, obviously he's the best one to probe, right?
True.
Just stay away from my butthole.
Exactly. I am kind of curious how big that farm is, because in order for it to emit that kind of massive glowing distance, so it's gotta be pretty. I wonder if it must be like a giant state-run like area out in the middle of nowhere. Is the only thing I could think of. Yeah,
I mean, it is close to a mostly rural area, but Snowflake isn't a big city. As the article reported, it was just outside of Snowflake. But I would imagine it's fairly substantial, especially when the doors are opened like that to industry to start producing legal marijuana. I know in places like Colorado, they just sprouted up overnight after legalization, and they were massive. Like everybody from the private, who were up until that point considered drug dealers, public enemy number one, took their whatever resources they could and built as big as they could, as well as a lot of big business walked in and said, hey, we want a piece of this pie, and started building massive complexes and plots of land to build this stuff. So I would like to get a little bit of an inside there and see what was going on.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Maybe it's kind of a test run. That's the other option. I don't know. Or
What do you mean test run?
Well, like if I'm saying like if the facility is up and running already, but maybe they're trying, like maybe they're testing out like a bunch of new UV lights or something, and or maybe trying out something with
well, UV lights are probably last I checked. It's been a long time since I've been informed at all about growing pot, but UV lights are the best. And I don't know if you know how light works and how refraction and reflection, I was combining the words there together, work. But when you have both mist and snow, which is kind of a weird, fog and snow, which is kind of a weird combination. You don't really get the two at the same time. It allows for the light to, spread out a little bit more, and it also becomes visible to the eye in the air like that, because it actually is refracting and reflecting off these micro surfaces. So
Yeah, absolutely.
kind of stumbling over my words there for a moment.
No, it's all good. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, I don't know. It's you have to think of fog as like reducing light vision, so it's kind of hard to really picture the other way. But yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, but if you think about it, when there's a thick fog and you're putting on your headlights, say, you can actually see the light coming out of the car very well. It might reduce the distance at which you can personally see, but you see more of the light.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you're clear night and you just have your headlights on, you just see where the light is shining off of. So so another one that just came up on my feed, and this was right after I was reading the Boris Johnson loves cheese article, and anything to take the piss out of vegans. I don't know what your dietary choices are, Geodes.
Carnivore, is that an option?
Sure. I do love myself some meat. Phrasing, maybe? No.
Yeah. Actually, maybe carbivore might be the better one.
Carbivore. Oh, carbs and those sugars, man. They are addictive as hell.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But again, we're going back across the pond to the UK, where a woman was heartbroken after biting vegan KFC burger and finding actual chicken inside. So, yeah, I mean, basically, somebody gave her an actual chicken and cheese sandwich, which I guess is a thing in the UK, chicken and cheese. Weird.
I can see it, but again,
I can see it. I mean, but in most of our fast food joints, the chicken sandwiches here don't really come with cheese. Unless it's like a specialty chicken sandwich and they're doing like chicken and pepper jack or something,
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, the only thing I can really think of is like something at like a state fair, like one of those things that like you see it and even like you're like I'm hungry. I'm not that hungry. That's the only thing.
This is a good point. And good points in chat. Inked. That's probably the best point of the night so far. I could say that was mostly global. Thanks for joining us, Jack and Quinn. And Quinn, you're right. We are a little bit more normal than our UK cousins, but I love them all the same. We will teach them how to reject their weird, sick, and twisted ways. We know how to do it. We've done it. We've broken away, and hopefully they won't come here, but hopefully with the whole kerfuffle with the royal family, maybe you guys will do away with the entire royal family and join us in the new millennia for fuck's sake, and do away with a monarchy in the Western world.
I will say, you've got one thing going for you, and that is that they can't allow the royals to stay in Canada because it violates your constitution. So,
does it? I haven't really been paying attention because I don't really care. I'll care when they say, okay, well, we're allocating this amount to our annual budget to give to them in some way. Yeah. Whether it's a protection or land or whatever, that's when I'll start taking notice and go, whoa, wait, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. I'm not paying a fucking red cent out of my tax money for that. And it's a little bit of a more deeper seated Canadian political issue. But should that happen, I'm predicting that there's going to be violence as a result. Yeah. I don't want there to be. By most rights, I'm a pacifist. But I do understand the right to stand up for what you believe in, to defend yourself. And sometimes violence happens. I'm just saying that I can see the line of events unfolding in our political sphere, and I can see violence as a result of that. Again, not justified, but just somebody who's crazy enough to enact violence, and that could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Mm-hmm. If we say that, we're paying $50,000 a month for security detail and for them to live. Like, no. And now that you're telling me it's a violation of our Constitution, which I'm going to have to look into in future, and actually pay attention to it now, because that's an interesting stance to take.
Yeah. My understanding is that, like, if, for example, the newlywed Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, if they want to go there, they basically have to have their royal titles renounced and live as regular citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So if that happens, they might be able to move to Canada, but otherwise they're probably going to go somewhere like LA or something, So
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've heard some commentators on the YouTubes talk about how they want to renounce their titles and basically just lead a normal life and just sort of put that the monarchy behind them and just move forward with their lives as private citizens, which I stand by. Again, I believe in the liberty of the individual, and if that's the choice that they want to make, then so be it. I've also been reading articles about how people find that's egregious. You can't just turn your back on the monarchy. It's like, well, yes, they can. So fuck off.
It's happened before.
yeah, no, it has happened. Quite a few people have abdicated the throne before, and their lordly duties, I guess you would call them.
Yep.
Yeah, we can pretty much blame feminism for a lot of things, Jack. They definitely contributed to that instance. Wow, I really didn't want to talk about that as much as I could, but the news, man. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
daily events, and when insanity comes a running, I come a knocking, going, "Ooh, what's going on over here?"
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, back to this story. Oh wow! Look at this individual's compo face. Although he's not really holding anything. So Nick Kent, vegan. Male or female? I want to say female.
I think the correct pronoun might be malnourished. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
You can see there's some chub there on the arm. I don't want to get too too involved in her picture, but yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate sometimes. You get what you pay for, and when you're going to fast food, you're not exactly paying for rocket surgeons to make your meals. That isn't to blast anybody who works a McJob. Like, you do what you got to do to survive. Like, that earns my respect any day of the week. But let's face it, it's not exactly the most involved and not the most intellectually stimulating of vocations. So people are going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And it is what it is. You take a bite, you get over it. You go, excuse me, this isn't what I ordered. Can I get something else? Your personal sensibilities be damned. I mean, unless you had an allergy and said, no mayonnaise, I'm allergic to eggs, then you really don't have a leg to stand on. Yeah,
I mean, you could argue it from, I suppose, like a religious standpoint, but even then, it's not really anything that would actually put you in harm's way. So it's more of an inconvenience than anything else.
Yeah, it's your personal sensibilities and personal habits being not really. I'll say it. It's not respected. But again, a mistake is a mistake. You accept the apology. You get your order remade, and you move on with your life. It's not exactly needs to be headline news in the Daily Mail, but it is the Daily Mail, and we are in the age of feminazis and vegan Nazis and veganuary. I didn't even know veganuary was a thing. I heard about it in the Boris Johnson article previous to you joining, and I was like, my brain had to do a hard, I got a blue screen in my brain. Error 404 does not compute, kind of veganuary.
Fuck
off.
I suppose you could come up with their own holiday, Vegan November, or for Vegan No Thank You. I don't know. I'm not. I'm not sure.
I just like, like we discussed earlier, I like meat too much. You like meat too much. Not something we personally are going to do. And by all means, if you want to be a vegan, be a vegan. You just don't need to tell us within 5 times within the first 3 seconds of meeting us.
Yeah.
And like try to put your lifestyle onto other people. There were a group called oh God, what were they called? I believe it was evangelicals who and very religious people. Let's call them the religious right, who were very, very adamant on putting their personal beliefs and their personal lifestyle choices onto other people. That didn't play out so well, especially not for the gays. Islam, they're a religious right as well. I hate to clump them all together, but they still do that kind of thing, and that's not going very well for them either, is it?
No, I agree with Jack Gunsky. # blame feminism for all of it. But except for maybe the Islamic stuff.
Jack, I probably would eat a retarded man if I was in one of those what was that movie about the soccer plane, the plane full of soccer players that they had to eat each other to survive? Oh man, that movie was great because it was so bad. But yeah, I would just try to avoid the areas where I could consume prions, like I don't know, the brain. I wouldn't eat human brain. Alive, that's it. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, we are alive. Ooh, pass me another hunk of co-pilot. So yeah, I would eat another person if need be. I have had some very, shall we say, exotic things in my lifetime. Never really eaten human. Long pig, no, not really. Kind of something I'm looking forward to. But like I said, if it was presented, I might try it.
Mm-hmm. If it was packaged in Soylent Green, I could probably get by. I'd have to. Don't tell me the secret ingredient though. So.
Oh, and Pincalo, damn you, because now all I can think about is Wendy's. Now
I want Wendy's.
Now Elwin wants. You know what, Pincalo? Thanks, man. You've decided what we're going to eat for dinner. But let's move away from food, still in the same sort of wheelhouse, with feminism. Because apparently, according to the CBC, the pay gap between men and women starts right out of the gate for college and university grads. Even though, statistically, men have been failing egregiously in not only secondary education, but post-secondary education, like college and university. Yeah, what about the other 73 genders? And women earn an average of $5,700 less, that's Canadian, so monopoly money, than men just 1 year after graduation. Now, this is another article I wanted to go in a little bit dry on because, Geodes, what do you think the chances are that they are doing the same thing that the overall pay gap myth has been perpetrating for the last several years, in that they're trying to conflate all people of all vocations into whether or not they're male or female, and the male nurse making $50K a year versus the female neurosurgeon making $800,000 a year doesn't really take those kinds of contexts into account.
I would imagine individual choices from the people in question, such as taking time off to have children. Maybe trying to, depending on what the field is that you're going into, things like that, I'd imagine.
Yeah, because up here in Canada, we have a fairly, even though there have been news stories about, like Lindsay Shepherd scandal, that there have been some scandals like that in Canada. Our post-secondary education is still more or less has its core, intact. You know, the trades, the higher learning, still really untainted by modern day feminism and social justice. But there, it is seeping in there. You know, we are starting to get more of those equity and diversity consultant bullshits in schools, and it's costing more, which is pretty much over the last decade more than doubled tuition costs. You see a lot of that down south and in the States as well, although it's not as rampant up here, which shocks me considering we have a lot more social justice warrior morons up here. I would say like per capita, per representation. I don't know. It might also be because our in terms of how the countries function. I mean, there might be a lot less people who feel the need to be activists up in Canada, partially because the country's closer to what they want to be anyways than down here. So no. We have more activists for our population density.
Oh, really?
Where I live in Toronto is basically social justice warrior central of the Western world. It is very heavily. I mean, it's hard to say because I know a lot of couch potato, armchair social justice warriors personally. But when I go out into the world, I see this kind of stuff in concentrated pockets, but I see it everywhere. And it's really trying on me as an individual because it's lies. It's basically propaganda to constantly perpetuate these ideas that are demonstrably false and really have no place in a civilized society. If you have points, like when we talk about Trump, if you have good points that you want to discuss and take exception with, great. But don't take exception with the fact that he was eating 2 scoops of ice cream. That's just asinine.
But they're probably vegans complaining. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Back to the vegans. So apparently this report that they reference, how much do they make, found that the gender pay gap starts right out of the gate, with women earning an average of, blah, 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 or 12% less than men 1 year after graduation. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it does analyze the outcome of 2010 graduates for a 5-year period ending in 2015. They are really just encapsulating all people. So it really doesn't matter what your field of study is. It doesn't matter that women make up, 85% to 90% of our nursing staff here in Canada.
Well, I'm kind of curious also, because they're talking about how the pay gap starts at graduate school and that kind of stuff. What I'm wondering is if are they factoring in stuff like scholarships? Are they factoring in the male dropout rate of for college degrees, and that would also mean the reason it's also costing more is maybe there's also more women going into the doctorate positions and stuff, because if they're excelling and doing well, which means that it would cost more. So I'm kind of curious what their study exactly specifically looked at.
Yeah, and there have been talking points that don't directly relate to it, but are more dealing with the human condition as it relates to men and women and averages. So men, on average, tend to be more aggressive and more. Oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? They tend to be better negotiators. That isn't to say that any individual person cannot be individual woman cannot be a better negotiator than some men. Sure. But we're talking, broad averages here. So when you're negotiating for salary in certain private industry, men tend to get a little bit more because they ask for more, and they will fight a little bit harder to get more out of the gate. Yeah. As I was referencing with nursing, you take a male nurse and a female nurse right out of college, right out of university in their first year, practicing, they'll be earning the exact same. If
Right.
they're in the same field, same education, same controlling factors, they'll be earning the exact same. But so there is no gender disparity other than what they want to conflate as, oh, well, we have, now they have the split on graduation rates is close to, I want to say 65-70% in favor of women in post-secondary in Canada and in high school as well. So that also contributes in that men are entering fields earlier than women. All these little micro contextual things that are not considered when you do these studies. I did kind of take a quick peek at the how much they make report, and it does look like a very polished piece of propaganda. I can't say that with any certainty. I haven't read into it. But yeah, it's more of the same, more of the perpetuating of these feminist lies and bullshit. And of course, in the article, they go that this is part of a broader gender discrimination because the women's guys, they're so discriminated against in Western society. Oh my God, we cover them from head to toe so that only their eyes are showing. They can't drive, they can't go to school. Wait a minute, that's not us.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chad, I've kind of been engrossed in the article here. Yeah, Scotty, that is one thing that tend to be attributed with the fairer sex is that they're more agreeable. So, when they get offered, hey, you can start tomorrow, we'll offer you $42K a year plus benefits. They'll say, yeah, hey, I'm a man. I'm a manly man, and Elwin can attest to that. I've done some manly things in my life, but I tend to be more agreeable. I will freely admit, in most of my job experience, I've taken the first offer because I don't really care. Oh, well, that's more than enough for me to survive. I don't really care. You know what? You know where I'll start making more money is when I start my job, and after that first year, that company will say, "Hey, this guy functional over here," which people have called me in real life. It's really surreal when people walk up to me on the street and go, "Hey, Funk, what's going on, buddy?" It's and I'll be out with family or friends and they'll be like, "Funk? What the fuck is funk?" Oh, just because I'm a funky guy. No. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, right. Yeah, I'm more agreeable. So I will show that after, a year's review, hey, I'm worth more. And I've done the comparison with coworkers in that I will get generally a bigger pay increase than most of my other cohorts. That's just a personal value I have. I like to show my value rather than talk about it with bluster. And then maybe in a year's time, they kind of go, but you're kind of middling. You're bloviating and you're building up of yourself really didn't pay out. So, we're not firing you. We just don't think that you're worth more.
Yep.
Tend to achieve more when you have more to prove.
Yeah. And then that's also the other thing is, I think something that Owen brought up in chat with the talking about the more time off working on average and less likely to work overtime, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, I don't know if they've done a statistical take on this, but what I'm thinking is also, are guys more likely to be looking for better job opportunities outside of their current position if they feel like they're not getting anywhere versus
the average woman?
Yeah, the average woman. Yeah. So that might be affecting things too. So
that would be something I'd be interested in hearing from better people than I, or more informed people than I am currently, if that is a factor and how much of a factor that could be. Yeah, mm-hmm. That's something I never even really considered.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they did a study, but
Oh God, new funny, funky smelling. Maybe I kid. No, you don't kid. And yes, I do smell funky. But you know what? Elwyn likes the musk. You know, guys. Let's level here. Women like the man stank. And we're not talking, dirty, unclean. They just like the scent and the aroma that men give off. So yeah, I do clean myself. Thank you very much.
No, cologne not necessary.
Yeah. Perfume not necessary either. I don't like personally. Again, just personal opinion. Good night, James. Have a restful, peaceful sleep.
Yeah. Good night, man.
What?
Oh, I said good night, man.
No. The wife is reaching over my desk like, no. She likes to dote on me while I stream and bringing me beverages and making me coffees. You know what? Actually, I will have a coffee. Thank you, dear. Yeah, she's good like that. She's Elwyn in chat. She's very supportive. You've probably seen her on Minions as well. I've kind of introduced her to the world of the YouTubes, and she likes it, and with good reason, because there's a lot of good content out there that isn't beholden to a lot of outside controlling factors, that people can just speak their mind and have wonderful discussions. I've actually been trying to get I forget the channel, but he's a really big social justice-y warrior channel. Wasn't Ask Yourself, it was, hold on, now I need to find it because I really need to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the channels I listen to a lot for.
Innuendo Studios. You ever heard of them?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so if you can stomach it, I'd suggest maybe taking a look at some of his content, because it's egregiously false. It basically takes all the debunked narratives of, say, the last 15 years, and puts them into consumable videos. And his latest one is basically kind of about indoctrination into the right and the alt-right and white supremacy and all this, when it's exactly what he's doing. He's trying to indoctrinate people into his side of thinking through false narratives, lies. Yeah, one sugar, please.
Yeah,
candy's a thing. Oh
dear.
So, like I said, it's kind of hard to watch, but it's one of those beautiful, destructive things that I'm just watching it burn before my eyes. And I've been trying to get him into a online discussion on the YouTubes, and he's yet to respond. And I've said to him, like, look, I might not have a big channel, but I do disagree with a lot of what you say in the majority of your videos. So I'd like the chance to, coming off very nice about it. I would love the chance to have a discussion. We don't it doesn't have to be, big debate, just two people with, almost diametrically opposed lines of thinking, to have a discussion and, pick away at claims and see what the truth is behind these things. A little bit of a note about me. Yes, I am a Jew. I've had, quote unquote, neo-Nazi experiences in my life. And some mostly younger people. When it's older people, I tend to just, whatever, man, and walk away. But when it's younger people, I'll engage and I'll talk to them and be like, well, why do you think these things that you're saying? And I'm proud enough that of my accomplishments in life that two of the many people I talk to actually renounce that way of life and those lines of thinking in just having a discussion with me.
Nice.
And over the years we lost touch, but we remained friends for quite a while. And it was just having, somebody who wasn't the media, who wasn't a political figure, just a regular Joe, sit down and talk to them about the ideas that and the preconceptions that they have in their head, to have them realize just how false they were, how wrong they were, and being the better men that they were, saying, you know what, I was wrong, and moving on with their lives. Mm-hmm. Because when you're wrong, you're only human, and when you're wrong, that's the best thing you can do, is just, yeah, hey, I was wrong, and move on. Like, previously I was like, abortions for all. Who are you to say, her body, her choice? But then I started to listen to the other side's arguments, and there are some valuable arguments that I took to heart, and I turned around and I said, you know what? I believe, I can get on board with that. Maybe we should limit it a bit more. And I did more and more research into it and found, something like 28 weeks is when we can first detect brainwave patterns. Mm-hmm. So, my personal stance is, well, maybe that should be the cutoff point, because it's based on scientific evidence and the best evidence we have at hand. So maybe that's, and my opinion evolved and grew over time.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely outside perspectives and kind of listening to other people. This is why you should listen to a lot of other people, even is to try and kind of make you double check and reshape some of your ideas. It doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily need to agree with everything, and I would argue that it's best if you can find somebody who can challenge your ideas that you enjoy listening to. But you don't force yourself to watch a Riley Dennis video if you don't want to. But
yeah, but it's so good to maybe check out a couple snippets of their content to know what exactly, if you want to have a stance on Riley Dennis, at least know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Maybe just a little bit. You don't have to watch their entire back cat. Oh shit! I almost knocked my coffee off the desk.
Don't do that.
I talk with my hands. I grew up in an Italian neighborhood. It's what we do. Okay. But so it is what it is. Learn a little bit about everything, so then you can. And I'm talking more specifically about content out there in the world, because that will give you a good gauge on content that you might not have normally watched more regularly. Because there are a lot of people that I do disagree with a lot, but I watch them a lot because I have respect for them. Ranting Monkey, somebody who I look up to as a working cripple, have mad respect for, but I'd say on probably half of what the things he says on his shows, I probably disagree with. Mm-hmm. No, yeah. Not so fundamentally or vehemently that it's I'm never going to watch his show again, but not like, a Riley Dennis video, since we're using that example. But I like to be informed because he's more right-leaning. That's why my co-host, Jen, she's more conservative. I'm more libertarian. I guess libertarianism is where I meet a lot of these people on common ground. The rights of the individual, the liberty of the individual, etc. But moving on. Oscars so white # still trending. I wonder why. First of all, chat, smash or pass. She's looked like she's got some years on her, maybe some plastic surgery, but Jennifer Lopez, she's still a fairly decent looking woman in her older years. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I definitely say good looking, but probably pass. So
pass. Okay. It's just a hypothetical. It's not something you have to commit to, right?
Well, I mean, I'm not about to hop in my car and drive over to LA. Just saying.
Many Oscar watchers expected Jennifer Lopez to get a Best Supporting Actress nomination, but no dice. The lack of diverse Oscar nominations show that people who make up the Academy are still overwhelmingly white and male, according to April Rain, an activist and the creator of #OscarsSoWhite. It might have something to do, call me crazy, that not too long ago that the, majority of the country was white. I believe it still is a majority white country, but not too long ago it was closer to like 80%. Now it's closer to 60%. And we're talking North America, not just the US and Canada as individuals, but combined. I actually have a very interesting story to talk about that. But that might be a big thing to do with it. It might also have something to do with the fact that because of that demographic percentage, that those are the people who are ingrained in an institution like Hollywood for the most part, and that maybe that's why. And you know what? I don't really look at a movie and say, gee, I wonder if this was directed by a woman or if this was directed by a colored person. I refuse to say person of color because it's just as racist, just a rewording of colored person. And if they want to use that kind of terminology, then I'm just going to say colored person because it's just as stupid as person of color. Sorry, a little addendum to that. And I don't think, oh, this director's black? Oh my God. If something's being a little bit touted and promoted, like a Jordan Peele movie, then yeah, I kind of already know the guy's mostly black. And that it's going to be a black film, or Spike Lee. I know it's going to be a black film because that's how they market themselves. But if I go watch The Mandalorian, and watch an episode that was directed and by a Japanese woman, I don't care. I don't care that an episode of Sherlock was directed by a black man. It doesn't matter to me because I'm not the racist. We're not the racists. The people who are constantly doting on these notions are the racists. And now, it's been a common talking point these days. Sorry, I need a sip of my coffee. It's kind of sitting there taunting me. Delicious, delicious bean water. It's been in the public, discussion for quite a while that it's now come full tilt in that the racism is full force against white people on these platforms and in these spheres, not in society. I would say that within society, racism is pretty much dead, like in practical society.
Yeah, I think it's
practically, because you do obviously have outliers and people with their own biases, but in the broader scope of society, North American society, it's pretty much dead, right?
Yeah, I would say so. The main thing that I'm mostly, from my perspective, like seeing kind of is I think what's probably more happening now is language that certain groups will engage with, you might not be able to engage in quite the same way. So, like, for example, if I was talking with somebody who's Native American, they might make a lot of jokes about, I think one of the last jokes I heard was, "Look at this Pillsbury Doughboy." Like, as I'm walking by, it was funny. It was great. I loved it. But at the same time, this particular individual who I'm thinking of, if I tried to make a joke similar to that, I don't know how well it would go over, and I may actually end up being accused of something when all it was intended for was a joke. So, in sense like that, I think we're kind of. I think there's definitely a bit of a double standard there going on, and that's partially. I definitely blame that mostly on like a lot of media and a lot of that crap, because I think we were if anything we were kind of coming out of it. I think we're kind of being slowly pulled back into it just from the other direction now. So.
But and I mean it's making its insidious sort of creeping into a bastion of free speech comedy, like your example, making jokes. Like when I was a teenager, my black friends, my white friends, my Asian friends, we'd all joke around and make fun of each other's in very joking ways, like our different ethnicities. It wasn't anything to be serious. And, like when I say it's almost, pretty much almost dead, like when you walk down the street and you live your life, it's generally not really prevalent. Like you said, it's mostly in media, in social media, in narratives, and in groups where they really focus on this.
Mhm.
But back to the Oscars thing. First of all, I don't think I've ever watched an Oscars show. I've always ever just watched the backlash. Oh, well, so-and-so was snubbed at the Oscars, and oh my God, I can't believe so-and-so didn't win the Oscar. It's like, I don't care. All it is a bunch of self-congratulating Hollywood elites masturbating over each other, and they're quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here. Here, let me scratch on the mic. Maybe you can hear the air quotes with their successes. It's terrible. You know who the real quote unquote awards who give those real awards? It's us. It's the public. It's the movie going public. And I don't like that notion entirely. It's just fact, because I'm not one for mob mentality. A lot of people like terrible things. I like bad movies. I like bad music. I can objectively look at it and say to somebody, yeah, it's bad, but I like it. Mm-hmm. It's catchy. It's poppy. It's fun to watch. It's a symphony for the eyes. But when you're talking awards, you have to talk objectively. Like, was this director really good at making this film? I'll look at a movie like Joker and go, I liked it. It was okay. I don't think it was a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, because it rips off almost its entire story from previous movies. A lot of people like to say Taxi Driver. I will add into that. There was this, oh God, I forget the name of it. There was a Korean movie, same kind of idea. There was Falling Down with Michael Douglas, same idea. And just put some Joker makeup on Joaquin Phoenix, and boom, it's suddenly a different movie. It's suddenly innovative. It's suddenly great. I thought some of the camera work was really bad. I thought some of the shots were really bad. The direction was pretty good. It was good. I still enjoyed the movie. But again, on those objective notes, I can make all these criticisms and then turn around and say, well, why is it so acclaimed? Oh, because of mob mentality. Everybody loved Joker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still have yet to see it, but I've seen clips and it looks really fun. Not gonna lie. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. The one thing that I will say that was phenomenal about it was Joaquin's take on that type of a character. Mm-hmm. That beaten, defeated, almost like was it Barry Loman, Death of a Salesman kind of character? Mm-hmm. Very good, well portrayed. He's a fantastic actor. I cannot take anything away from him. I would just say, as a whole, as a complete project, yeah, it was fun to watch. But so back to my point of that mob mentality. I'm really weary of using that kind of a criteria to judge things. But when Hollywood judges its media based on how successful it is, that is your number one empirical evidence that something succeeds. How many eyeballs have seen it worldwide? Not how much money it makes, because dude, when I was a teenager, I went and saw what was it? Oh, I always forget the name. Phantom Menace. I saw Phantom Menace like 7 or 8 times. I saw Clone Wars 12 times in theater. That's not really an indication of how good the movie is. I saw it once, but I paid for it multiple times. You know what I mean?
Right. No, well, I think Adam nailed it in chat. He said, I think a lot of people loved it more because of the uproar the movie made. So yeah.
And that's the whole art imitating life, imitating art, imitating life. That like I was talking about, the colors that we don't typically see in nature is just inherently attractive to us. Mm-hmm. That is a very good point. Controversy is very attractive to human beings. Yeah. And when there's big controversy, people tend to sway their opinions a little bit more in either direction on any given item that we're talking about because of that sort of kerfuffle over it, whether it's increasingly good or increasingly bad in somebody's opinion of something. So I can definitely see that, especially since it's also free advertising.
Yeah, it's true.
Beats per minute, Elwin.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like it's kind of go back to kind of the awards stuff, because we were talking about like the Oscars and everything. I mean, it's like even think about like the Game Awards with that one guy who went up on stage in the furry costume and to accept his award, and then proceed to talk about how the only things that, like, he was a black man who's gay and who's a furry, then pretty much everything that Republicans hate or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. I think the speech, it's just kind of, you had the opportunity to kind of talk about, how you got to this point, and, maybe even kind of say, like, who helped you out along the way and stuff. It's like there's other ways you could have approached it and probably made yourself more amiable, is the word I'm thinking of, maybe, to people who don't really know who you are and everything. Yeah, might be more interested in seeing your content, and but it didn't. And at the same time, it's like he did draw in a particular crowd. He got a bit of a following, but at the same time, he also lost a lot of people who are like, okay, you're not worth my time. So you're injecting politics into what should be a politically neutral sphere. Yep.
Excuse me.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it definitely is. It's fascinating to see how some of this stuff plays out, though. So,
sorry, I'm a smoker, so I'm constantly coughing. Especially since I just finished a little bit of the sweet Mary Jane. I'm one of those high functioning potheads, if you can't tell.
Gotcha.
At times. So yeah, back to the Oscars. One of the big, in the Twitter sphere, and by this April Rain cunt who started the hashtag Oscars so white, this fucking racist piece of shit, who, by just looking at her picture, I'm gonna just outright guess that at least a third of her genetics is Western European. So you can fuck right off, you racist cunt. That, one of the biggest quote unquote snubs was, oh God, I'm going to butcher her name, Lupita Nyong'o, who played a character in, here, let me bring it back up on screen. This woman, she played one of the lead roles in Jordan Peele's Us, which by all metrics was a terrible fucking movie. Yet these racists will say, oh, but he's black, so he deserves the award. Why? He didn't put out a good, a movie that I really liked that he made that didn't get any clout was Keanu, because it was the cinematic equivalent of cat videos on YouTube. It was a movie whose central pivotal character was this tiny baby kitty and the misadventures that Jordan and Key have to save this kitten named Keanu. It was a great movie. It was a fun movie. It was actually directed and produced well with good lighting, good camera work, etc. It for me as a cinephile, dinged all those good objective markers and was also just a funny movie. No clout, nobody talked about it, but they want to talk about Us because it was controversial at a certain point. I don't know why. Even Get Out was better than Us. Yeah, wasn't it? What film am I thinking of? Because I think it was about the time, either this one or Get Out came out. There was another film that came out called Green Book, and that's based off a true story of a black man who plays piano and an Italian driver. And it's like, if you want to try and do the route of this film, it was created by a black director, stars like a major black actor, all that stuff, therefore we should give them the award. It's like, why doesn't it go to at least a film that was actually interesting as well? I mean, it in terms because a film like Green Book, it hit all the same talking points. It talked about the
differences between like the separate cultures, the differences in terms of how people perceive the Italian man who kind of works with like the mob versus the black man who is trying to be classy and actually trying to make a image that for himself that also would help improve the outlooks of people for black people in general at that time. And it's like it hits all the same points.
Was wonderful too because they're in the deep south of the 60s.
Yeah, exactly.
For anybody who hasn't seen the film, it was a great film. Oh, so good. Viggo Mortensen, powerful actor, and Don Shirley was the character's name. I forget who played that character, but it was also directed by Peter Farrelly. Again, a director who I was like, hey, I really like this guy's work, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden somebody's talking about, good black directors. And I was like, okay, let me look. Let me see my favorite films of like the last 5 years. Let me go back and actually look because I've never looked and see who's a minority or a person of color. And I was like, oh, Peter Farrelly's black? Cool.
Yeah. Oh, Viggo Mortensen. For people who that's the guy who played the Italian guy. And then the Mahershala Ali, I think, is the guy who played. But for people who don't know, I mean that's the Mahershala Ali was the guy, the first antagonist in the Luke Cage TV show, and Viggo Mortensen played Aragorn in Lord of the Rings. So.
Which I just finished watching the extended trilogy again for the 20,000th time. I like me some. Shio. Yes, that's who I wanted to say hello. Mention cute kitties and Shio appears. He likes cute pussy. So the article, goes on to talk about films that maybe should be talked about that these activists aren't talking about. We mentioned Us, and there's this film called Parasite. I've heard really, really good things. I've read up on it. I haven't seen it yet because it's a film I really want to give my utmost attention to. But it's South Korean. It's nominated for 6 Oscars, including Best Picture. People love the movie, but these activists don't mention it. They completely gloss over it. And yes, it's by a person of color, even though Asians are about as colored as we are. I'm assuming you're white. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're spot on.
I present as white. I'm not entirely genetically white, but whatever. My genetics. I'm pale. I'm almost as see-through as ghastly. Let's put it this way. That's how white I am. So these racists refuse to acknowledge it. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of these blacktivists don't see Asian people as minorities. They don't see other minorities as minorities, especially Asians. They see them as part of white people, white culture, white identity. When, go to Japan and get China, Thailand, get some life experience and then come back to me and tell me what your opinion is then, you little fucking racist pieces of shit. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, they've made a big stink about Greta Gerwig's adaptation about Little Women. And it's like, okay, but how many times has the movie Little Women been made? It's not exactly a new story, and they didn't do a new spin on it. It was just a masturbatory piece so that Emma Watson, she's the one who played Hermione.
Yeah, Emma Watson.
Yeah, on the left here. Yeah, so that she could play, a character role. It's look at my acting chops kind of thing. Again, it's that forceful. Hey, this is diversity, bigot. Even though it's a bunch of white women. Again, that was a talking point by racist McNappyhead. April Megan or O'Neill or whatever the fuck her name was that started the hashtag Oscars so white. She would look at this and be like, yeah, but they're still white women.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely
like most things in our society, it should be a meritocracy, but it just isn't. People want to give people clout just because of their immutable characteristics, like their skin color or their quote unquote race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's very wild to me also because see, like I don't honestly know a whole lot about genetics, so this is from a very layman's perspective in terms of all this stuff. But I'm like, I generally think of like a lot of like people who are Hispanic as more of I think of them as white. I think maybe they're culturally different, but
Very different culturally, yes, but
Yeah.
on a genetic level, they are a long-term amalgamation of white people, Spaniards, and Mesoamericans, Mongoloids. So they are the long-term result genetically, because new markers have crept up here and there over they've been around a long time.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, they are the long-term result and evolution of the Caucasoidal gene and the Mongoloid gene, Asian gene, coming together and basically dominating an entire society. Hell, an entire landmass, really, right?
Yeah.
That's why you see a lot of fair-skinned black people in the Western world go to the family trees of some of these people who, like I was just saying, with that woman who started the hashtag with Oscar So White, she's very, very fair-skinned.
Yeah.
Chances are, going through her genetic lineup, her family tree, there'd be a lot of white in there, because the person who she descended from, who probably came over on a boat, I'm just making, a wild assumption here, just trying to make it a point, that person was probably almost black in skin color.
Yeah.
Very, very dark. You go to people who haven't really left the continent, their family line hasn't really left the continent of Africa or Jamaica. They're very, very dark with good reason.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like and that's the thing is like they even there was that video that came out with that one young black woman who she did the genetic testing to see what her ancestry was. Yeah, she freaked out because she was mostly white, and it's
like 40-something% white, almost half white. Yeah,
and it's just kind of like, okay, and the
interesting thing is, I'm probably a little bit more informed than you, but still a layman when it comes to genetics. That certain genes are you have more dominant genes and less dominant genes. Yeah. So it just means she could have been 80% white. It doesn't matter if her Negroid genes were the stronger genes, she'd still have a lot more of those features physically.
Yeah, and that's so, but to kind of get back to the point I'm making is like, I'm like, to me, this whole thing about like, representation with these different groups with like, more of a, like the Hispanic minority or, more representation with this minority or that minority. I'm just like, okay, what's the point? I get that you're virtue signaling and all this other stuff. I get that some of you want more representation, or you feel like you've been negatively affected by society. Maybe you've had some very bad interactions with certain individuals who are dumbasses,
Sure.
but it's like, but honestly, I'm just kind of like, okay, but yeah, what's the point? What is the end goal here, really? So I'm like,
yeah, and then you start treading on some dangerous waters there, because then people will be like, oh, what, you think that there's going to be a white genocide? When did I say that? I'm just saying, I'm just asking questions like, what is your end goal with this?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you want to bring up statistics, we can bring up statistics all day, and you won't like them, Mr. Representation advocate.
Right. Yeah.
Because why are you, the Boyne is we'll say, black people are overrepresented in prisons and in the criminal justice system. Well, that's not the cause. That's the effect, you fucking racist piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wild.
It is a wild time that we live in, and the hyper connectivity that we are privy to with our technological ways these days is really something. but it's also scary.
Yep.
So moving on to the I think we'll just one or two more after this I really wanted to touch on. It was actually a delicious little news cycle since my last show. So I had some really good articles. I hope everybody's been enjoying them. I hope you've been enjoying talking about them. The next one is the U.S. search warrant accuses Canadian resident of smuggling Mexicans across the northern border. This is something that we here in Canada have been well aware of for quite a while, that there are people smuggling themselves into Canada via the United States who are not residents of either country.
Mm-hmm.
We have been wary of the caravan making its way, however minutely, into the United States and then through the United States into Canada. We've had story after story about African, Middle Eastern, European, yes, even white people who landed in the United States and then literally walked over to the border in Canada and decided to stay here illegally. So, what's affecting your guys' immigration policies and numbers is also affecting us. However, we have a spineless coward in our head of state who refuses to acknowledge the issues. He's, the archetypal social justice soy boy in that he will turn around and immediately say, well, we don't need to talk about that because that's not considerate. That would be bordering on racism, and I don't deal in racism.
He needs to meet my governor. I think they get along well. And I'm not even joking when I say that. My governor is a dumbass. So.
Which governor?
What's her name?
Her name.
She replaced our last one. It's the governor of
California, right?
New Mexico.
Oh, Mexico.
Let me look it up. But yeah, no, she.
Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, no, she.
So that's interesting. You live in Mexico, huh?
Yeah, we definitely. I'm not going to say that.
You don't have to divulge anything you don't want to. I just thought it was interesting because, I assumed you were white. You were like, yeah, and I was like, oh, but you live in Mexico. That's interesting. That's very interesting to me.
Well, I mean, I live in New Mexico, so we're actually. So. Yeah.
Outside of New Mexico, you kind of have to, let us.
Yeah. No, we are right up against the border with Mexico. So,
Michelle, continental United States. So
yeah, Michelle Lujan. Yeah, Michelle Lujan Grisham. There we go. That's her name.
Right. I think I've heard of her before. Hasn't made too much of a stink in the national news, but I have read stories on how just deliciously stupid she is.
She's already one of the most disliked governors in recent history. So that should give you an idea of where we're going.
But it's really interesting in this story, getting back to it, that there's actually like a smuggling ring on the Northern American Canadian border.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of redundant on the Canadian American border. That there's such a demand for this kind of stuff. And it leads me to now wonder how many more people, other than, because these are, I'm just assuming that these are probably, your typical, stereotypical coyote types, probably speak Spanish or Mexican. I've heard that it's a different type of, anyway, and do the things that they've traditionally done on the Southern American border, but are now doing to the Canadian border, and probably helping them get across the United States up into Canada.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they've started uncovering by all rights, a massive smuggling ring of this magnitude.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing is also, it's my guess is also, we have a lot of people across the border every year, and that's the ones that we, of course, that we're able to catch and document who we're able to, not the ones that we have no idea, but yeah, if at least like where I live, the job market's pretty slim. So mostly because not much work that's really good pay that you can really live off of comfortably. And of course, people like to go elsewhere where they have more opportunities. And so it's not surprising to me that they're looking to expand further out all the way up into Canada. So they're going to go wherever they think they can find work, and if they think that the United States is not going to help them out, or they think it's too risky, they're going to go where they think they'll be more welcome.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It kind of makes sense. Most people in the world, they just want to be able to survive, live their life, and eventually get a little bit of comfort. But have a notion of safety. And I can respect that. It's just, sorry, you have to wait in line. Yeah,
it's not fair to the people who've been in line for so many plus years and spent thousands of dollars. So.
Mm-hmm. What I love to do, again, in my city, because I know a lot that there's a heavy social justice warrior sort of presence here, is I'll walk into a Tim Hortons, and if somebody strikes me as one of those types of people, whether or not like overhearing something they say or how they present themselves, I've tried on a couple occasions and just walking in front of them in line.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing what they have to say about it. They usually get very, very aggressive and very outspoken about what I've just done. And I don't engage. I nod and I say, you know what, you're right. I'm sorry. And I go to the back of the line. I just do it to prove a point. Because I know that those are the same type of people who'll be like, just let them all in. Just let them all in. They just want sanctuary from their evil, tyrannical governments. It's like, well, fuck off. So some big news here. It really, I'm going to, spoilers, was really a nothing burger. But it was big news, national news here in Canada. Was a couple of days ago, we were getting inundated with warnings on our phones about a nuclear incident that wasn't a nuclear incident at the Pickering power plant, which is just outside of Toronto. It's an older reactor. I'm one of the types of people who loves nuclear power if it's maintained and kept up to date, which can be kind of pricey at times, but it's your responsibility when dealing with such a industry to do it responsibly and ethically. Mm-hmm. Because that's what society dictates. That's what the planet dictates. It is what it is. So we got these notifications saying, there was an incident at the nuclear power plant, and it was, sent to mobile phones across the province, and it was followed up by a nothing is actually wrong. Sorry for the warning, the previous warning kind of warning. So we're getting warning after warning and there really wasn't anything to it. There was a leak of some heavy water, which isn't radioactive. It's actually, you can drink it. You can't just drink too much of it because the hydrogen atoms are a little bit too heavy. So you can drown a little bit faster. But you can still consume the water. It's perfectly safe. And that was the big deal. So you can see some of these alerts, they're very wordy, especially considering the fact that this one here on the left is completely in English, except for the fact that it also has the emergency alert also worded in French. But then the next emergency alert you're going to get is the entire thing in French. Mm-hmm. God, our language laws in this country are so fucked up. So, I'm going to read it out just because I know a lot of people didn't get a chance to see these things because they don't live here. Emergency alert. This is a province of Ontario emergency bulletin, which applies to people within 10 kilometers of the Pickering nuclear generating station. An incident was reported at the Pickering. I keep tripping over that stupid word because it's so dumb. Oh, did I miss something? Oh, that was you from like an hour ago.
Oh,
looking at the chat. Sorry. Where was I? There has been no abnormal release of radioactivity from the station. Emergency staff are responding to the situation. People near the Pickering nuclear generating station do not need to take any protective actions at this time. Remain tuned to local media for further information and instructions. See, to me, that just sounds like it's causing a ruckus for no reason.
Yeah, it sounds like they were saying like, we need to notify the public, but we
something may or may not be going
Yeah.
on, but
And
it's fine for now. Yeah, it's just causing a stir for no good reason. They've been abusing the fuck out of our emergency alert system. I will get obviously, you know, Canada is the second largest landmass country in the world, right?
Right.
And as such, our provinces are really big compared to most of your states. We just have a population density that is very small compared to yours. And in such, yes, the emergency broadcast system could be pertinent in a missing child sort of Amber Alert situation. Yeah. But I live at the southern tip of my province. I'm getting alerts from the northern tip. We're talking like almost Arctic regions kind of area about Amber Alerts. And they're like, yeah, but you live in people, the naysayers who I would discuss these things with on social media and the like, were like, well, they may go to Toronto because of airports and this, and I'm like, yeah, but the likelihood of that, there's no evidence of that. If the Amber Alert is to be used responsible and these emergency alerts to be used responsible, don't cause a panic, first of all. And it should be in the area in which the problem is occurring. So yes, something like a nuclear alert, that should go out nationwide. That should be something that should be broadcast down to our neighbors in Michigan and other close states, Ohio, and say, hey, we're having a problem with one of our reactors. Stay tuned, but there's a problem. Not to say, hey, there's no problem, but there might be a problem. Let's not go that way. But if there is a problem, but with something like an Amber Alert, yes, make it a little bit more local, maybe within a 50-kilometer radius to broadcast this stuff, and give context of, yes, was the child abducted by a father? That's a typical thing that happens. And okay, let's look into that father. And I'm speaking from the government or the broadcaster's perspective here. Let's take into account what their mobility is. Were they a helicopter pilot? Well, then you know what? Maybe we should put out a wide-stretching Amber Alert. Were they just a working Joe with a car and no real means to just get on a plane? Then yeah, maybe we should restrict it to a smaller search. Just all I'm asking for is a little bit more responsibility with these things. Something like a nuclear alert that isn't a nuclear alert like this can be very dangerous. Yeah. People could freak out. We could see, what we typically see in movies about apocalyptic events unfurl.
Yeah. Unless, like you said, it'd have to be something like, suddenly the Yellowstone National Park volcano is about to go. It'd have to be something like that.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure that would be national news within moments.
Yeah, I mean, like even for us down here, it's like it'd be like, okay, yeah, we better start packing up and heading to El Paso, So yeah, but no, it'd have to be something really wild. So
and yeah, Elwin makes a perfect point that I brought up the other day was, yeah, if something were to happen, don't worry. You're not going to be around too long to care about the emergency alert or even care that it exists because you're already dead. If the reactor explodes, either A, you're dead right away, or you're going to die within minutes of radiation exposure or within a couple of years from lesser fallout.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're able to track the radiation emissions into the atmosphere and kind of how the wind's blowing it around, and to let people know, like, hey, in like a couple of hours, you might have a problem here, so you might want to try and at least go somewhere else, tries to get out of the way. But even then, it's like, good luck.
Yeah, I should not have taken that off screen because I wanted to point out, if you look at the map, Toronto, where I am, look, we're surrounded by the states. Pickering, right beside us, again, surrounded by states. Like this area in the picture, if there was something that was potentially wrong, then yeah, like everybody in this area is going to be readily affected and yes, should be warned if something is wrong. But yeah.
I think they should look into Ranting Monkey to make sure that it wasn't him trying to set off the nuclear reactor just so he could have a warmer winter.
It's really funny because Jen's from Alberta, Western Canada. They're having an incredibly cold winter. Here in the northeastern United States, southern Ontario, southern Quebec area, we're having a surprisingly mild winter. It's great. It's great. It's called weather. It changes. Sometimes it's different. Climate shift is a thing. If we get snow for the next 4 months, I wouldn't be surprised because climate shift. Not everything is equally I shouldn't say equally, but easily quantified by us as humans yet. Climate is one of them. Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I read an article more than a few years ago, probably about a decade ago now, where they said, global warming is the only thing stopping the next major ice age. So, hey, we have no idea.
Oh, so many things. And yet, they've completely done away with the narrative of pollution. Something now the right has picked up. And again, as a liberal, as an actual factual liberal, not a party liberal, I look around and I go, wait a minute. Now they're the ones who are talking about the pollution in the oceans and plastics and stuff. Well, gee, I guess that's just one more thing I have in common with these people than I do with the people who were traditionally on my side for, what I thought was most of my life.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember it's climate change is a racial issue now. Just say, that's the big one that shocks me now. I'm kind of like, wait a minute, what? I'm sorry. That's this one group. What? I thought it was the whole planet.
And definitely, Peter, you know what? Vault-Tec really needs to start building. Maybe Bethesda should just get on it and become like a real life Vault-Tec and start building like these massive Fallout shelters. That would be awesome because I would love to live in a Fallout world. Even though I'm kind of a gimp, I'd make it work, if I don't become a ghoul. And how old are our reactors, Armskilla? I don't know off the... We're serviced in 1971. Yes, that is true. 1971 is when that reactor was built, but it has undergone a few upgrades and minor restoration projects. But recently, in the last, I'd say 10, 15 years, we've actually, in the last 20 years, we've made, as a species, as the human race, have made excellent strides in nuclear technology and refinement. Something I've mentioned time and time again on this channel is the LFTR, the lifter reactors, are almost 100% safe and almost give off almost no waste product. And the waste product they do give off is easily repurposed in other areas. They are incredible things.
Is that the one that
basically liquid salt reactors?
Okay, because there was a reactor I know that some Texas A&M students came up with where it was a very small reactor, so you could kind of put a bunch of these underground, and basically any waste it came up with would be recycled along the sides of the reactor and would function as fuel. So it actually burns up like 95% of the waste it created. So that was
really cool.
Yeah, that was back in like 2012, 2013. That article came out.
Yeah, because I know the lifter is an acronym for liquid fluoride thorium reactor. So it uses basically, you know, for the layman, it's a liquid salt as its fuel and in its reactors, and it creates. This is the part I usually falter on and usually don't remember entirely accurate, but it basically creates a byproduct that can be used in medical imaging apparatus.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and they're almost completely safe because should it fail, there's no fissile material, nuclear fissile material that can explode, that can, you know, give off a nuclear blast. If it does, the entire reactor basically caves in on itself, and all you're left with is this liquid salt, this hot burning liquid salt that would eventually just cool and whatever. But the chances of that are almost impossible. So, but you know, it was developed by Americans. They didn't want to institute it because at the time it was too expensive. They came up here, pitched their ideas to the Canadian government. The Canadian government said, no thanks, because they're cheap and stupid and like to waste their money on things that don't actually improve the environment and climate change, their impact on it. So you know where they went? China. They sold their idea to China, and China is refining and developing these reactors.
That's where
Hello, McFly, anybody home?
That's where it's like, you know, at least I was wondering, that's where you'd hope maybe the French bought it or something, because, you know, Germany's buying all their power. So
yeah, well, don't get me started on who's buying what, because right now, as it stands, and I think for the last, I want to say 6 or 7 years since the last, the inception of our last provincial liberal government here, we're now selling the United States electricity at a loss. They made a horrendously bad deal so that we're now paying America to sell Ontario energy. And our province is a energy producer. Ever since the collapse of the auto industry, which is further collapsing, you know, slowly but surely, we've become an energy generation state, and we failed at that. At on the business level, we still generate an immense amount of electricity. However, the business decisions on what we do with that energy has been just an egregious failure across the board. You know, it used to be a public-owned utility here, Geodes.
Oh, really?
And it subsidized healthcare, it subsidized taxes, it subsidized so many things and made our life great. The Liberals decided they wanted to sell it off. It's now a private company that is now gouging its users because they have a stranglehold. They basically have a monopoly. So you get private business, for-profit business in there. What is the number one mandate of business? To be successful and make money. And when a company acts unethically and takes it to the nth degree, of course they're going, especially if they have a monopoly, they are going to fleece their customer base, especially with something that has become a modern day necessity in electricity. You know?
I don't know. Well, as long as you're beating out California in terms of economy, I think hopefully you'll be okay in the long run.
Hopefully. The economy isn't everything. Like, people seem to forget that GDP, the economy, it's not everything. For the most part, you know, countries like America, countries like Canada, we're self-sufficient. We could end trade tomorrow with the rest of the world, with other countries, and we would be just fine. You know, sure, your avocados might be a little bit more expensive because, you know, most of them are imports from Mexico. You're not going to go hungry. You just might have to make a few more dietary choices. You might have to make a few more difficult choices on what products you consume. You're not going to die. Something I thought was pretty scary. The FAA is investigating Delta jet fuel dumping on school kids. Yeah, this just happened today. In fact, yesterday, in fact. Wait, today's Wednesday?
Yeah.
No wonder Jen wasn't around. You know what? I'm a dumb idiot. And I'm also a stoner who has a very messed up sleep schedule. So, yeah, I thought today was Tuesday in our normal show. So, you know what, Jen? I apologize for my previous comments about you being missing in action because today's Wednesday and I'm just an idiot and this is just a bonus show. Lindsay! Lindsay. Oh my God, I've got some things to say to you. Not bad things, not good things, just some nerd talk, if you would. But yeah, we'll finish up with this article and so in Cudahy, California, authorities will investigate why an airliner with engine trouble dumped jet fuel over a densely populated area near Los Angeles while making an emergency return to the airport, dousing dozens of school children in a smelly vapor.
Oof. Yeah.
Delta Airlines Flight 89 to Shanghai, China. A Boeing 777-200 with 181 passengers and crew on board turned back to LA International Airport only minutes after taking off Tuesday.
Of course it's
Yeah. My God. The pilot reported a compressor stall in the right engine, a damage that can happen through malfunction or when a foreign object, such as a bird, hits an engine. Common enough occurrence. That's why we build the planes the way we do, in that if a bird were to take out one of the engines, they could, in most cases, make a emergency return or landing and work for quite a bit on 1 or 3 engines, depending on what kind of a plane it is, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, the damage can reduce engine thrust or lead to a fire in worst cases. Most of the time, it just stalls out the engine and, whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see where this leads because, they're dumping their fuel, something that isn't really commonly done, especially when they know that they're over a densely populated area. You got some explaining to do, Mr. Pilot.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be hell to pay if this was and oh my God, Delta is going to pay out the ass in legal fees to these kids and their parents.
Oh yeah,
and anybody else who was hit directly affected by this. This is what this again, when we were just talking about nuclear reactors, this is modern technology that still kind of scares me. Aviation still kind of scares me because of things like this. Mm-hmm. Those are basically, for all intents and purposes, very powerful weapons that can be, as we learned on a certain memorable date in American history, that can be used as weapons and turned on people very easily, through purposeful, egregious means or through accidental means. We do our best to keep things safe, but geez.
Yeah, it's
scary.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, even a train, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Unstoppable. Yeah, it's like a train with carrying any kind of something that is highly flammable going at fast enough speed. If it goes careening off the tracks, you got problems. So
you've got major problems.
Yeah, but actually, not to necessarily diverge away from this story, but locally in my state, in a section of Albuquerque, which is kind of the big city.
Yeah, I've been to Albuquerque.
Yeah. There was a situation that came up a few years ago where with the Air Force base nearby, there's long stretches of pipe out in kind of the middle of nowhere out on the Air Force base that, occasionally gets, they patrol, make sure, everything's looking good and stuff like that. Well, apparently somebody finally noticed that it was a pipe that carries jet fuel. Also, I should point this out. Somebody finally noticed that they were losing gallons as the fuel was traveling along the pipe, and they went and looked, and they found a leak that was a fairly steady leak somewhere out kind of in the middle of nowhere where this pipe was being run. And then they went back and looked at the history of it, and it's like hundreds of thousands of gallons have gone missing and nobody noticed. And not only that, where it was leaking is directly over one of the water tables for like one of the water reservoirs for the city. So it was like, yeah, they started looking at the water reservoir, and sure enough, they found jet fuel in it. So
was there ever was there reason?
No, it's just there was a leak and nobody noticed.
Oh, it's just an accident. Like there was no foul play or anything.
There's no foul play. The only thing was that this leak's been going on for decades and nobody noticed. So it was
Jesus. See, okay, now I would turn around and say, if it's been going on that long, then there's some accountability to take into consideration, because the people responsible, the company or whatever institution is responsible for those pipes, is negligent in their safety checks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cases like that really wouldn't happen when we talk about something like the Canada pipelines, like us piping oil down to you guys, because of the stringent regulations and the fear of it's been in the news, people protesting these things and creating all this kerfuffle over nothing. They're being extra safe with those pipelines, because they know if there's a leak of any kind or a rupture or anything else more egregious than just a simple leak, there's going to be hell to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So that story amazes me, that for decades nobody noticed a little bit of a leak.
I'm
assuming it's not like a crude pipeline. It's a natural gas or gasoline.
It's gasoline.
It's
It's this particular type of fuel that they use for a certain type of jet that is one of the faster ones. So it's got some chemical compounds that are especially flammable and definitely not safe to consume. So it was it was one of those things where it's like, oh Christ. But the other thing else, I think because it's on the Air Force Base, it might also be, and this is maybe me kind of just comparing just that little pipeline to the gas pipeline that you were talking about for it's the transcontinental oil pipeline or whatever it is. Because you've also had cases up there, right, where or at least even on our side of the border, where we've had people who've tried firing guns at the pipeline that the police had to go catch, because it's just like they want to try and start some shit, and it's just.
And there have been countless cases of we've heard recently in the news, because Australia's on fire, of over 100 and something cases of arson, suspected arson. We've also had cases of that in Western Canada. We have cases of that in the Western United States fires. And it'd be interesting to see some of the people's reasoning, because I will go out on a limb and say that I guarantee you there are, climate activists who did that to prove a point, to solidify their argument of climate change is burning the world, by outright just lying and starting a fire, and actually being the problem, not the altruistic paragons of virtue that they purport to be.
Yeah, well, it's the 1 second.
No problem.
Sorry, I had to cough. But well, it's like, so desperate to prove your point that you're completely forgetting the main reason why you're supposedly supporting better climate and better environmental practices in the first place.
Base level is propaganda. It literally is propaganda. And coming back full circle to something like the feminist thing with the wage gap we were talking about earlier, they cherry pick their arguments and their data to suit their narrative, just like somebody who would start a fire or shoot a pipeline to prove their point. Hey, pipelines don't work. Hey, climate change is burning the earth. Like, you're doing more to harm your case than you ever did to help it. Your activism. Again, you want to talk about pollution and about how we should act as a species responsible and in balance with nature and our environment. Great. Let's have at it. Let's talk. Let's discuss the issues, and then we can talk about possible solutions. But there's this fundamental disconnect in today's society and in the Western world where people won't even sit down to talk about the issues. You have Bernie Sanders who wants to lower drug prices. You have Trump who wants to lower drug prices.
Yeah.
But they won't even sit down to talk about, hey, this is the problem. They can't even agree on the problem, because you have Bernie Sanders who will say, oh, well, Trump wants to veto our bill. Well, yeah, because you probably tacked on, bathroom rights and transgender rights bills into what shouldn't be connected to a bill to simply lower drug prices.
Yeah.
You probably want to charge companies for giving people medicine, as opposed to, in a capitalist society, and mostly capitalist society, companies to actually have an incentive to make profit off of their product.
Yeah.
You probably want to give away everything, and someone like a Trump, who is a corporate Democrat, still wants his businesses that he's a businessman. He might not be directly involved in the pharmaceutical business, but is still part of his doing business in some respect or another, that he wants these businesses to still be viable financially, but he also wants the people that he purports to represent to be able to afford these life-saving medications, who, yes, because of a sheer lack of regulation, again, like we were talking about hydro here in Ontario, electricity in Ontario, because they have such a stranglehold, almost a monopoly on this essential industry, are able to gouge people and act unethically.
Yeah. No, it's
go ahead.
It's policies in all the wrong places is a lot of times what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Because you'll have too much policy in one way that encourages bad corporate practices, and then when the bad corporate practices start gouging their customer base or try to corner a market, then suddenly there's no restrictions whatsoever, and it's just kind of like
I make the people say communism is evil, and all these systems of economics are government economics are evil, and yes I will agree, but I will also say that unfettered capitalism is equally as evil, because it takes all of the power away from the individual and puts it into the hands of corporations or those people who have money, and that is equally as dangerous as just the state having that amount of power. So capitalism with regulation, with oversight, checks and balances has been a great boon to humanity. It's allowed people who can relatively come from nothing have modicums of success, and in some rarer cases, immense success in the financial world.
Yeah.
And remember, people, in life, that's not the only measure of success.
Yeah. Well, it's the basic thing I try and say is it's when people talk about how socialism is the best system and that we should always switch to it because it's the more ethical one, and versus capitalism, which is unethical and doesn't actually steals from you more than it gives back. In my attitudes, I'm like, capitalism is very good at one thing, and it's generating money. It doesn't. The thing with capitalism is it doesn't have anything specifically stating that what happens with that money. I typically think it's better when you have people putting the money back into their local communities, businesses that they frequent, stuff like that, because it keeps everything circulating. It lifts everybody up as a whole. Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's it works much better, I think, when people are behaving ethically, but it doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't work. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean it's
like I've said, you know, we're never going to get to a utopia.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how the universe, we're talking the grandest of scales, operates. In fact, the universe in most reputable schools of thought and theory is very chaotic. So for us to have the hubris to say, yes, well, in a perfect society, there's no such thing.
No.
Yes, I will agree with you. In a perfect society, a communist or socialist system could work. It could flourish, but we could never get to that state because there's no such thing as utopia. It's an idea. It's a dream. It's a fiction. And Cynical Lindsay, I would, if I'm not one to ascribe to labels because I'm such an individualist, but yeah, I would probably say I'm a laissez-faire capitalist in that, you know, if you want to devote your life to creating a product or service that, you know, let's take Amazon, for example, just because it's, you know, constantly in the news. Jeff Bezos, he didn't come from nothing. But he created a service and a product and a brand that people really latched onto. And he found wondrous success after the first couple of years, because the first couple of years he did operate in a deficit. Just like Google, you know, so many of these companies operate in a deficit and don't get really financially viable until they in such a way until they finally clear a couple hurdles. I'm not going to berate him or deride him for their success. Mm-hmm. I believe that you should be able to have that success. That's part of the wonderment of the quote unquote American dream, which I would now say is the Western dream. Western civilization has latched onto this dream that, yes, you can create something or develop something that so many people will latch onto and want to patron. And that is what our society in its most ideal form tries to allow everyone to do. No, not everyone's like that. I'm not like that. I was happy being very, again, laissez-faire in my vocational life, because as long as I had enough money to survive and a few luxuries here and there, I was a happy dude. I still am a happy dude, you know. It's when times are tough and, you know, you're kind of a little wondering. That's when, you know, things can get a little tense. But again, I'm not the type of person to, you know, I wasn't one of those people who had to be, you know, the best in my field or the top chef or the top designer, you know, two vocations I've had in my life, or the top farmer. You know, I've been a farmer in my life, even though I've been a city person. But yeah, I would never judge someone because they wanted to take that route in life. Yeah. I will judge you if you take it to the nth degree and you take it to the extreme, because extremes are never good. And you know, forwent relationships, family, having children, etc., like all these other potential markers of success in your life for the sake of you earning $1. You know, something I could, you know, surmise about. I obviously don't know him about Bezos's life, because he's had such quote unquote failures in the relationship world. He, you know, in his most recent you know, relationship news with his divorce, he got royally fucked over for someone who I would think is a gold digger.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Bill Gates, you know, one of the biggest, I mean, the biggest founder of basically the modern computer and software, mostly software, really, with, you know, from the development platforms of Visual Studio and Azure to Microsoft Word and your operating system.
Yeah.
if you see the stuff that he did back in the day to companies to get to this point, like companies that were developing products that he was competing against, holy crap.
Oh, dude was a motherfucker.
Yeah. And it's like, but now he's doing a bunch of charity work and stuff. And I think it's partially because, he's like, I think it could be age, possibly, that, he's kind of learned as he's gone on that maybe money, it's not all about the money. It's not about all this other stuff. It could be virtue signaling in terms of he just wants people to like him. It could be a combination of both. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, And it's like, and kind of look at how everything's developed to the point where it has. It's not necessarily that I wouldn't even necessarily say it's good or bad. It's just kind of like, but it is useful to where we're at right now with a lot of this.
Yeah. And, exactly, Lindsay. Everything has balance. Everything is the force. So therefore we need to have balance in everything. And you know what? It's actually been a demonstrable thing. Like people who are at their it's kind of a subjective term, but at their happiest are generally people who have balance in their home life, in their family life, with relationships, with their vocations, with their environment, balance in all things. We can't, yes, we have dominion over the planet as the human race, so we should act a little bit more accordingly. I think, again, going back to Western culture, the Western world, the Western ethics system, we tend to try to live in those kinds of terms, but everything's evolving so quickly and so fast, especially in technology, that our laws and our social policies really aren't catching up. Mm-hmm. Like, I had an article about it. The Canadian government is actually taking steps to protect users online and create laws that will hold companies responsible for breaches. We had some news recently where this company called Life Labs, which is a health organization that does medical testing. That's all they do. They don't have like their own practitioners in it or anything like that. It's just purely like your doctor will send you to these clinics to get blood work done, to get DNA swabs, whatever kind of testing. And they had a major security breach. And one thing I will give the Trudeau government is that we are trying to enact legislation in which that company will be held liable for their breach, because they are given the responsibility to hold and maintain and deal with this personal information. And another thing that they're doing is also holding people accountable and companies accountable in the online space. So just to use it as an example, should Facebook, a company like Facebook, I should say, take your personal information and have a breach, or without warning you, use your personal information, government agencies, whoever, without your express consent to use that information, will be held liable. And also giving personal information a dollar value, so that a company like a Facebook could not circumvent the law and say, okay, well, signing up for our platform, you have to give up your rights to your personal information. We have all the rights to whatever you post. So protecting the person, because those kinds of user agreements don't go against the law. It's something that I hope is done well, because a law is just a tool. It can be used in what I would say the right way and the wrong way, or any combinations of those, or it can be used to the extremes. It could be used really egregiously and be formed pretty poorly. I'm hopeful of it. It's something that we have taken the initiative of, and hopefully we don't go the route of, say, the United Kingdom and be too protectionist, but maybe we'll find some balance there, and not allow these tech companies to circumvent the law, because companies like Twitter, like Facebook, they act outside the scope of the law, and they hide behind the shield that is 230. that protects platforms, but in actuality and in practice, they're acting like publishers by curating content and curating their users. Even though they will maintain that they are free speech platforms, they most certainly are not.
Yeah, and then the thing is, yeah, if they want to go that route, they should at least be honestly stating what it is they are, from a combination of, hey, we're this type, we're either a publisher or we're a platform, to them saying, hey, you know, we don't really have freedom of speech, like in terms of these are rules, very explicitly stated. So, but yeah, I will say the only thing with this data breach stuff that I would kind of throw my 2 cents in there is also it a lot of times, especially now as we're getting more and more digital, if it's like a breach like from hackers that found an exploit or something like that, I have a hard time necessarily holding the company to fault there.
Well, are you saying white hat hackers who will hack it and be like, hey, look, you have a data breach here?
Right. Yeah. And that's fine there. Like, and even the gray hat hackers to some extent.
Sure.
I'm okay with that.
But I understand what you're saying. Like a malicious, yes, the person is still a criminal.
Yeah. I don't know if I would hold the company responsible for that. That would be my only.
Well, they are responsible because they are taking on the responsibility to protect and maintain your personal information.
Oh yeah.
I'm signed up on to a couple of these class action suits against these companies for their negligence. Let's just call it that. They're not criminally liable or complicit, but they've been negligent.
Yeah. Okay. So like
not having the best cybersecurity and these are things like the example with Life Labs I give, they also did not divulge the fact that they had this leak for several months.
Oh yeah, see that right there. That's definitely.
Yeah. So not only were they not acting, not only did they were negligent on the protection of their data, but they were extremely negligent in their reporting the crime to the authorities and to the public at large.
Yeah,
that's why there's a class action suit.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, if it's a combination of those two, I can see that. Yeah, because my big thing would be like, yeah, you could have a security system set up, and you could have all kinds of checks and balances put in to help make sure that your data isn't leaked. The big concern would be like, yeah, if there's something that, you know, whoever's managing the security overlooked, and that's not necessarily even. I would say that's not even necessarily like it. You could argue it's their fault, but I would argue it's more like, you know, it's like maybe they didn't even think about that type of security breach.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, they're made up of people. Again, people are fallible.
Yep. Yeah, but yeah, definitely if they took months though to report it, that's something else entirely. That's definitely
And I mean, like anything in a either civil or criminal lawsuit, you have to take context into consideration. Like you said, it was a very different story until I told you that they sat on that information for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, if it was immediate and they immediately went to the authorities and immediately told the public at large, hey, we had a security breach yesterday. X amount of people have had their information acquired by a criminal. Then yeah, there's probably a little less recompense that they would have to pay. Unless it was found out that, yes, there are other extenuating circumstances, like, oh, well, they knew about a hole in their data security. They just didn't shore it up, or they were negligent in keeping up with the most modern of security systems or what have you. Sure, again, adding to the context of the situation. And again, going back to the proposed legislation here in Canada and hopefully future legislation in the United States, I hope at the end of the day, it's there to protect mostly the user, the public at large, but also to protect these companies, to protect them from the Jessica Yanivs of the world who would, at the drop of a hat, take advantage of a system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's lots of people out there that would. Again, we're entirely fallible as a species, and when you live in a capitalist society that we do, people are going to do a lot of shady shit just to get that extra buck. And even if you go a little bit lower, people will do that extra shady shit just to survive. So we got to have balance with the laws too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. There you go. Yeah. No. Yeah. What was the other thing also? Yeah. Well, it's like people will want if you have somebody who wants something that somebody else wants, they'll try to find ways to get it, or whether it's legal or illegal. It's kind of the one of the reasons why I don't really think communism works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been demonstrable. It doesn't work. That's not true communism. You know what? Shut up. It is communism. You failed, because at the end of the day, communism requires an authoritarian, totalitarian state dictating what the people have to do, how they have to live. And basically at that point, you're just gauging how involved they are in your private and personal lives.
Yeah.
Like, is it going to go as egregiously to tell you who you have to be able to breed with, marry, etc., to well, we don't care, but you still can't be gay married.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're playing with the gray area there, but at the end of the day, you're still telling us what we have or can't do with no justification. The justification that we have with laws that we do in Western society are to protect people. For the most part, the spirit of the law is to protect the individual.
Yep.
That's the spirit of the law. Obviously, sometimes it fails us because, again, people are fallible. They are in charge of government systems. It's just a matter of who has the least egregious, the least unethical ideas versus, the Bernie Sanders ideas. Well, let's just give school medication to everybody in our borders, and let's open up the borders, and let's cancel all these people's bad loans because of poor life decisions. Yes. You know what? We can talk about interest rates of student loans. That's something I would be willing to discuss, because something I personally believe is probably a little bit out of control at this point. However, let's look at the context. Let's look at massive increase in the demand for these loans and the demand to go to post-secondary schooling and all these other factors. But to say, let's just give it all for free. No, that's idiotic. I shifting gears a little bit. I really enjoy having a national healthcare system. Yeah. Because yes, I don't mind. I'm bad with finances, personal level. I don't mind the government saying, okay, well, we're going to take X amount of X percentage of your income and put it towards the healthcare system. Great. Because I don't then have to think about it. I didn't have to, through most of my life, say, okay, well, I'm setting aside X percentage from every paycheck to set aside for medical needs, medical emergencies, all these kinds of things. I didn't have that freedom. Which at the end of the day is a freedom to say, yes, I'm not going to be taxed an extra 20% so that I can have a national healthcare system. That's why I believe in both systems. Yeah. But you still have to have those checks and balances in place to make sure it's equitable for both parties, so that the practitioners, the healthcare providers, can make a living, can offer a service and product that they can profit off of, but that it also still protects people. Oops, wrong chat. Who are you cheating on with me, cynic?
Who knows?
You know what?
In bird culture, this is considered a dick move.
Damn you, cynic. No, seriously, what are you watching? Because I think we're going to wrap up soon, and I want to know what I should be watching next, because it's a little bit of time before Lords of the Night, and after that, the Minions of the Zoo.
Yep.
Which is usually a fun time.
Absolutely.
Whether or not you each day of the week, different personalities, different flavors, different discussions, different topics. It's always an interesting time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. No, Elwin makes a good point. Autism. Next should be food. I really, Bering, love the guy. I think he's brilliant. He's been one of the most affluent content creators in my consumption of YouTube content. I understand, real life is getting the better of him for the last little while, so his content's been sort of on the back burner. Great. He's finding his balance in his personal life. But, great guy, funny, entertaining, well-spoken, even if he is an Aussie. Dankula can only understand. He just had his kid. He sounds fucked. Okay, maybe I will pull it up after we're done here. Dank, he's one of those people who got famous because of controversy. I can't help but feel sorry for or have some pity for him because of the shit that's been flung at him. But at the same time, he's done really well for himself. I can only assume, because he puts out a good product. The controversy will only take you so far.
Yeah.
It will expose me to your content, but it's at the end of the day, your content and your personality itself that will make me come back for seconds and thirds and, 11sies. Just like his wife, Sue Hulk. If you guys don't subscribe to her channel, oh my God, she's the cutest little Scottish girl doing, cooking videos, unboxing videos, very cutesy stuff. She's a treat to watch. Sometimes my glucose level gets a little too high, so I can't watch her because she's just so sickeningly sweet, which is a good juxtaposition for Dank, who's, but leading to my point, I'm not a fan of Jeremy. I think at his core, he's a decent dude. I was on board with his channels, the Quartering, Midwestly, almost since day one. Something happened though, where he just started, I guess he started playing the algorithm a little bit better, in putting out lots of clickbaity stuff, lots of knee-jerk reactionary stuff, an immense amount of outrage peddling. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Had a little tickle in my throat. So he's been an egregious outrage peddler. And I turn around and I'll say to him, dude, you have become what you became famous for reporting on of the social justice outrage culture. You are the same person. You will jump onto a story, you will misrepresent and misreport things to peddle outrage.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think he started copying other channels that are very similar. I think he just looking at them and going like, "Ooh, they're doing really well. I'm going to do the same." So, yeah, but that's my guess. So,
well, it would stand to reason because that was his vocation. Last I remember, he did a lot of SEO work, a lot of online media work. So he knows the system. He knows the industry. So he can manipulate to get himself more views. And you know what? I respect the hustle. Mm-hmm. I don't respect the content.
Yep.
I respect him on a personal level, as a person. I don't like his content very much anymore. Again, on social media, when he posts a new, hey, check out my newest video, blah blah blah. I'll watch it. I'll make an honest critique of it, and at the end, I'll say, again, you've stared at the abyss too long. You've been sucked in. Because he can be demonstrably wrong. Again, he's fallible. He's human. But yeah, that's my take on the tism. Jeremy tends to be the lead on that show. So it's kind of made me less interested in being more vociferously hungry for that live stream, because I love my videos. I love my YouTube videos. I love my YouTube content. But for me, live stream content, these free form, long form discussions with people and stuff. That's where my heart is. That's the type of content I like to consume the most.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know. I could get into a whole spiel about YouTubers
Yeah.
anymore, but I don't feel like doing it.
yeah, we're coming to the end of the show. So I mean, other than Minions, you been up to anything lately on the YouTubes or content or?
I have been trying to make myself work on a new avatar, so that's mostly it.
I like the googly eye geode though.
Yeah, I know.
No, me too. I know the need for having something that is uniquely representative and very clear for people to recognize you. It's, brand recognition. That's what we do as content creators. We're trying to create a brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say I'm trying to still keep a theme going with this this sort of face looking thing, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm not it's going to look different, but hopefully it'll look similar enough that people will be like, oh, I know who that is.
Best of luck with that. Yeah. Anything else?
Aside from that,
living life and
pretty much. I've been working and yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have a Twitter. I occasionally go on there and post something. So, that's about it.
Well, if you want to drop that, if you have the Minions channel handy, you can. What nights can people mostly find you on?
Nights? I don't have a regular night.
Oh, you're just in the sort of traveling rotation?
Yeah, I'm in the traveling rotation, but I'm actually not technically a minion, but you'll probably see me either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So
cool.
Probably most likely Monday because that's Quiz's Warhammer painting.
Those are always a treat as someone who, at one point, spent way too much money on Warhammer figurines. I'm not a minion either, but I've been really active with a lot of your people. Had quite a few people from the Minions on Snow Mexicans, which is always a treat. But I've been trying to get on when Prospero hosts because she interests me. She's one of those types of people who I think I can sit down and have a really good discussion about any number of topics with. We've had her on 11:30 Eastern. Thanks, Cynical Lindsay. We've had her on Snow Mexicans once, and it was a good time. Unfortunately, this is less of a freeform show. I try to have a little bit more of a, structure of newsy type stuff, events type stuff. I like to talk a lot about entertainment. Unfortunately, didn't really get a chance to talk about a couple things I've seen. I'll probably talk about those tomorrow, like the newest Terminator movie. What else did we watch? I watched Titans. Okay. Anyway, I'll be talking about that on tomorrow's show. But yeah. I kind of having a brain fart, forgot where I was going with that. Thank you, Lindsay. Link to the Minions channel in chat. If you want to get connected with Geodes and enjoy some of his comedic stylings on social media, sub to him on the Twitter. I don't have a Twitter. I've been permanently banned because speaking truth to power only works when you're white. Only works when you're black or when you say that you're black like Talcum X does. So on pages like Bernie Sanders and Talcum X calling them racists for basically referencing empirical data, statistics, and the like, Black Twitter didn't really take too fancy to that and mass flagged me to the point where I couldn't dig myself out of a pile of shit with a shit shoveling shovel. So unfortunately, no Twitters for me. I mostly connect with people on the Discord. That being said, because today is Wednesday and I fucked up royally, this was just a bonus show, I guess, because I was bored and was doing nothing really with my time today other than watching Peter Almond, which isn't, nothing. I enjoy his content, especially since he was doing a playthrough of a scary game. One of the I forget the name of the game. Shit. But, you know, one of those games that's very high tension, not a combat oriented, atmospheric game where, you know, you have to survive as opposed to fight. So people would send in a, you know, a £5 donation, and he would literally shit in it. Well, not literally, but figuratively take a shit in his chair. And for the next 2 minutes, it's just him and camera going, "Oh my God. Oh my God. You just scared the, like, oh my," and his reactions are just fantastic. Outlast. Thank you. The first Outlast. I think he's going to be picking up the second one pretty soon. That's always good fun. But mostly playing Monster Hunter. Kyler got me hooked on that game, and I've kind of just been grinding out that. So I decided, hey, it's almost 5 o'clock. I should do the show. And excuse me.
No worries. Yeah.
Excuse me, a little bit of a cough there. That's how I know it's time to end, is when my throat just gets so tickled I can't keep a sentence going. So yeah, that being said, bye everybody. Stay tuned for us on tomorrow's show. Any last words, Geodes?
Happy to be on. It was a fun conversation. Enjoyed bouncing all over the place with different topics.
Yeah, it's kind of. I hate to go off on yet another tangent, but we're here, so let's deal with it. It's always fun. I always find it fun to have people who are, you know, at least semi-informed on a variety of topics, because it gives you that perspective of what other people are thinking. Not what the mainstream media is thinking, not what big personalities on social media are thinking, but just what, you know, other people, regular people are just thinking, and be able to bounce stories and topics off of new people. The downside to the new people is we sort of bounce all over the place because we haven't really conversed at length. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on such short notice, literally 2 minutes before I started the stream. Luckily, your phone call wasn't too long. But yeah. I'm going to play it out. I don't know if you've heard my theme song before, but I love it. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.
Flip the table, screw you all.
I fucked up and closed the window without ending the broadcast. Bye, everybody.